Have you ever noticed something strange? The quieter you are, the more some people seem to dislike you. You don't interrupt anyone. You don't seek attention. You don't create drama. Yet somehow, people assume you're cold, arrogant, or even unfriendly. But psychology suggests something completely different. Most people don't dislike quiet people because they're quiet. They dislike what silence makes them feel. And once you understand why, you'll never look at silence the same way again. Human beings are naturally uncomfortable with uncertainty. Whenever we meet someone new, our brains immediately start collecting information. How do they speak? How do they smile? Are they friendly? Can they be trusted? Most people answer these questions by talking. They share stories. They laugh loudly. They reveal opinions. Without realizing it, they're giving everyone around them clues about who they are. Quiet people don't do that. They speak less. They reveal less. They observe much more than they explain. And that creates something many people struggle with: a mystery. Psychologists have found that when our brains don't have enough information about someone, they automatically begin filling in the blanks. The problem is, those blanks are rarely filled with positive assumptions. Instead of thinking, they're just quiet. People often think, they don't like me. They're judging me. They think they're better than everyone else. None of these assumptions require evidence. They're simply the brain trying to reduce uncertainty. That's why two people can meet the exact same quiet person and create completely different stories in their own minds. The quiet person hasn't changed. Only the observer's imagination has. What's even more interesting is that silence often acts like a mirror. Have you ever been around someone who barely speaks and suddenly found yourself talking much more than usual? Most people have. When someone remains silent, others naturally begin filling the space. They explain themselves. They justify their decisions. They tell stories they never planned to tell. Without realizing it, they reveal far more than they intended. Meanwhile, the quiet person simply listens. Over time, this creates an unusual psychological imbalance. One person feels exposed. The other remains unreadable. And people rarely enjoy feeling exposed. Not because the quiet person has done anything wrong, but because silence quietly forces people to face themselves. Sometimes, what makes us uncomfortable isn't the other person. It's our own thoughts reflected back at us. And that's where many misunderstandings begin. To be continued. The truth is, quiet people don't just make others curious. They also challenge one of the strongest human needs: the need for validation. Think about how most conversations work. People tell stories, hoping someone will laugh. They share achievements, hoping someone will admire them. They express opinions, hoping someone will agree. Almost every social interaction contains a small search for approval. It's completely natural. We all want to feel accepted. But quiet people often seem different. They don't rush to impress anyone. They don't constantly explain themselves. They rarely argue just to prove they're right. And perhaps most importantly, they don't seem desperate for attention. To someone who depends heavily on external validation, that kind of independence can feel strangely intimidating. Not because the quiet person is trying to compete, but because they aren't competing at all. And sometimes, the person who isn't playing the game makes everyone else question why they're playing it. This is why confident silence is often mistaken for arrogance. People assume they think they're better than us, when in reality, they're simply comfortable not needing to be noticed. Another reason quiet people are misunderstood is because they break social expectations. From childhood, most of us are taught that being outgoing is a good thing. Speak up. Join the conversation. Be more social. Express yourself. So when someone chooses silence, people often assume something is wrong. Maybe they're angry. Maybe they're sad. Maybe they're judging everyone. But silence doesn't always signal negativity. Sometimes it's simply peace. Some people don't speak because they have nothing to prove. Others speak only when they believe their words have value. Neither choice is wrong. They're simply different ways of interacting with the world. And history shows us something interesting. Some of the greatest thinkers, scientists, writers, and leaders were known for spending long periods observing before speaking. Because observation often reveals what constant talking hides. Quiet people notice patterns, small changes in behavior, inconsistencies in people's words, emotions hidden behind smiles. They aren't necessarily more intelligent, but because they spend less time talking, they often spend more time paying attention. And people who feel seen too clearly don't always enjoy that feeling. It's much easier to be around someone who never notices your contradictions than someone who quietly notices everything and says almost nothing. Ironically, many of the people who criticize quiet people eventually become the same people who seek their advice. Because when life becomes difficult, people stop looking for the loudest voice in the room. They start looking for the calmest one. The one who listens before speaking. The one who doesn't react emotionally to every situation. The one who chooses words carefully. Silence, when combined with emotional maturity, becomes a form of strength. Not everyone will understand that. Some people will always mistake quietness for weakness. Others will mistake it for arrogance. But neither opinion changes who you really are. The people who truly matter will never judge you simply because you speak less. They'll judge you by your character, your actions, and the peace you bring into their lives. So if you've ever been disliked simply because you're quiet, don't rush to change yourself just to make other people comfortable. The right people won't fear your silence. They'll respect it. Because sometimes, the strongest person in the room isn't the one speaking the loudest. It's the one who never needed to. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more insights into human psychology. And let me know in the comments. Have you ever been misunderstood just because you're quiet?